Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to In The Shop TV. If you're new here, that's my 1955 Chevy truck that we've been working on, the fuel system in the back of the truck. Just kind of getting buttoned up now. If you've been following along, welcome back. In the last episode, we got a rollover vent plumbed. We got our axle differential vent plumbed. We made a little bracket for both of them. In today's video, we're gonna show you how to bend aluminum fuel tubing, brake lines, you name it, using a tool that's only $9. All right, let's get into it. All right, guys, so here's our big whopping material list. This is a compression fitting. Basically, your tubing is gonna slide in through this end. You've got this little brass compression nut or ferrule here that goes inside there over the tubing. And then this end locks that down on top of it. It makes it completely leak-proof seal. And that's how you transition hardline over to AN fittings. It's super simple and it's a really great idea. It works fantastic. This is just a standard AN fitting, which is gonna get threaded onto the back of our Corvette regulator, just like that. And then our tubing is gonna get threaded onto this, and that orientation is to start making our 30-degree climb up our step notch. And this is what's called a bulkhead fitting. Kind of long on this end with this nut. Basically what that does is just, it's gonna thread through that boxing plate that we have. We'll drill a hole in there and sandwich this in there. This is 3/8 aluminum fuel tubing. You can do it with steel, stainless steel, whatever. This is pretty tough stuff. It's super easy to work with. It's affordable and it looks good, so I like to use it for my field projects. Also, it's aluminum, so we're not gonna get a bunch of red rust all over it and have them rotting out on us. A little tip before we get started, as you can see, I'm kind of rolling it off in a completely straight line. It's arrow straight. Everyone's kind of like, well, how do you do that? You have to get one of those pipe straighteners or anything like that. It's a stupid little trick. If you just put this on a flat edge, right, like a table or a desk or your workbench, and you push down on the coil from the top and start unrolling while keeping this part flat, it'll lay out super straight, just like that. So I decided to make this video because sometimes, and I'm sure this happens to you guys too, sometimes I get a little overconfident, I get a little cocky, and I'm like, I'll bend that up real quick. It's nice and soft, easy to work with tubing, and you wind up kinking it and doing stupid shit like that. So I backed up. Let me show you how we can bend perfect bends for $9. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna run our fuel on the inside of this step notch, basically our new frame rail, from the fuel filter regulator, up this arm, across, down, and then through this boxing plate, where we can then at a later time hook up another straight line and run all the way up our frame rail to the engine. This is not the only way, but this is what I found to be the absolute easiest way to do this, is to get yourself just a straight piece of wire. What I'm using is a piece of single strand Romex. It's a solid core, number 12 wire, just some household stuff, and start bending it to the shape that you want your tubing to be in. Kind of trying to just refine it a little bit. Get that inserted in there, about how far it's gonna go. I think that might be a little close to the top of that frame rail, so I might have to shorten that end up right there. There's our offset that kicks it closer to the frame rail. We come down here under that bracket, and the end somewhat over here above that brake line. All right, this is our basic shape right here. Looking on the side, you've got a little bit of an offset right there because the fuel filter regulator AN fitting stops over here, and then we've got to kick over to our frame rail. So we have that offset, we come up on the top of our step notch, come back down, it kind of offsets again right there, then runs forward. The beauty of doing it this way is that you can keep messing with this and messing with this and messing with this until you get it exactly perfect how you want it to sit in that frame. And you're not ruining your actual workpiece, it's just a piece of wire. And if you really mess it up really bad, you get another piece of wire, it's not the end of the world. So admittedly, guys, as I showed you in the beginning of the video, I have bent this stuff by hand before, and it works really well when you're doing like the small offsets and stuff like that, but it's really the wrong way to do it. I got a little, ahead of myself and did that, and that's where I put that stupid kink in there, and I was kind of ticked off at myself for doing dumb shit like that, but not the end of the world. I figured it's a good illustration for the video to show you that there's a wrong way to do things and a right way to do things, and even people that have done this 100 times still choose the wrong way from time to time. Do it the right way. Let me show you how that's done. This right here is the aforementioned mythical super secret tool that I was telling you about. It is a $9, I lied to you, it's not $9, it's $9.99 hand bender from Harbor Freight, and it does, I believe, 1/4 inch, 3/8, and 5/16 line, and they make a smaller one that does even smaller line if you want to do brake tubing, like 3/16 or whatever that hell that is. Yeah, 3/16 I think for brake line. You do it the same exact way. Really cheap, it works really awesome, makes super clean bends, and I'll show you how we do that. So they got these marks on this side that can give you your angle or your degree of what you want to make your bend if you know what your degree is. And then you're just going to line up your 0 to 0 mark right here. You put your tubing in from this side because it grabs the tubing and keeps it straight. You'll slip it in here to the appropriate channel. You got 3 different sizes to choose from around the back. And then what you're going to do is you just start compressing down on this slowly. Don't go crazy fast. And then until you reach your mark. When I built my step notches, I know I built them at 30 degrees when I made those angle cuts on them. But if you don't know what your angle is, I didn't even follow this method, what I'm telling you right now. You can just take your template, your wire template, and you lay it down on top of that bender where your tubing is set up, and you just start bending it real slow until it matches up with what your wire looks like. Another little trick that you can utilize is I'll take a Sharpie and I'll make a mark right where my bend on the tubing starts, and then I'll put the mark on the angle or where I want that bend to start. Then I'll place it in the bender. Can you guys see the line right there? Yeah, there it goes. I'll place it in the bender where the zeros are, at 0 degrees where I want to start my bend with that angle showing. Come down and start our bend. Then of course, here's the actual bend itself for the radius, where as you can tell, there's no kinks. It is nice and smooth, perfectly round. It really does a nice job. I know what some of you guys may be thinking, oh man, you just put Sharpie on your brand new pretty lines or whatever. Now it looks like shit. You just take some acetone on a rag or whatever and give it a good wipe and it comes right off. Not a big deal. Another really important thing to remember is your fittings. If you're gonna bend this pipe, you have to put your fittings on before you bend it if you're gonna bend it anywhere close to the end. For example, here's an offset right here. And we notice if we take our fitting and move it back, it can't go any further. No matter how hard I pull on it, it gets stuck right there. So it wasn't an issue on this piece, for example, because I have a nice straight length from here to here, and that's fine. You can put your fitting on after the fact if it's a short, straight piece. But if we had to make this bend here, for example, you really want to have your fittings on beforehand or you're not going to be able to get them on. Now, it's not an exact science doing it that way, but that little line gives you a reference point of how far not to bend, meaning so you don't miss your mark. You can always, bend a little bit more if you need to, but I like having that reference line just so it gives me an idea to play things safe and not go past that point. There's our first bend. That turned out way better. So I'm just kind of taking my time here and lining up my template again until I get the shape. You can see I still got a little bit more to bend until I get that angle right there. Yeah, it looks just about right. So far, so good. Take it over there and check it out in person. Here's our completed piece, and it looks so much better and fits so much better too. Now, when I bent that pipe, it looked super easy. That's because it was super easy. This may not apply to you if you're gonna use something like stainless steel 3/8 tube or even mild steel in 3/8. That's a lot more rigid. You wanna take the first end of that bender and maybe put it in a vise so that you have a little bit more leverage on the handle part of it. All right, so I've just got it kind of test fit and laying there, and man, that looks a hell of a lot better. I like that a lot. I've just got one end placed on loosely. I might have to bend this end up just a hair, just to give it the illusion of being more straight, but it's kind of getting nitpicky with that. So I think what I'm gonna do is take this off and then permanently attach the hose end on that side, or the AN fitting rather. All right, so I'm gonna make the filter regulator end up first, do a test fit. You slide the end over, get your little compression nut or ferrule here, slides down, and then this slides right over the top. You wanna make sure that that tube bottoms out. You bring this up to it. So what I'm doing right now is just marking the frame on both sides of our tube here because there's going to be a mount or a clip, and I want to be able to reference that spot. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here, so I know where to drill for our bulkhead fitting. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this once again so I can make one hole here and then one hole here. So this is not in the way. All right, so I've got this little clip inserted in there. Just drilled the hole, snaps right in, and then you put your pipe in and clamp this down on it. It just locks it in place. All right, so we're gonna get our hole going for our bulkhead. Well, that proved to be a little bit more challenging with that 3/16 boxing plate. So I had to put a washer on here. The end right here, the collar is just about the size of the hole, and I just don't want to pull them through. So washer on there gives us a little bit of extra wiggle room, and that looks just perfect. All right, so you guys see where we're going with this. We have our AN fitting on the end coming off the regulator, a clip here to hold the line, and our bulkhead fitting right here. The tricky part is going to be measuring our pipe that we made, where it sits inside that fitting, and where to cut it off so that it lines up just perfectly. Well, that lined up perfectly at least. Nice and solid. And this is right on line here. We just got to get this fitting loosely on and see exactly where we need to cut this. So if you look inside the front of this fitting, that little ledge in there is where the pipe will stop, where the tube, excuse me, will stop. And that means the compression, or the olive, will sit right here right on this lip. So that kind of gives us an idea of where we need to cut the pipe. All right, so that ledge is about 3/16 of an inch inside there. So we're going to call it right here. Oh, the truce. Well, if it doesn't work out, worst case scenario is we just have to redo the whole thing. Whenever you cut these ends off, it's a really good practice to just get a small half-round file, clean off any burrs or sharp edges that the cutter may leave behind. So it definitely feels super rigid and solid no matter where I grab it and move it at no movement, which is what I want. It's not touching any other metal in here, which is really important too. It came close right there, but didn't touch. We're definitely far enough off of that where it's not going to be an issue. I mean, for obvious reasons, you don't want a metal pipe holding your fuel, rattling and banging it against the frame. That's not a good thing. So the only thing that we'll need to do from here is come off the back of this and then run it up the frame rail to the front of the vehicle. Obviously, we are not ready to start doing that yet. We've got to get this cab off. That's got to get painted. A whole bunch of stuff has to happen before we can start working our way forward with brake lines and fuel lines. But really kind of a milestone, guys, because unless I'm missing something, from here all the way back, I think we're done back there. So we got to start focusing our attention on the front half of this truck now. If you found this video cool, guys, or helpful at all, or just like to watch this stuff, I really need help to grow on this channel. Please hit that subscribe button. And if you click that little bell notification to get notified anytime we upload a new video that has to do with this truck, there's gonna be hundreds of them because we got a lot of work to do. Guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you on the next video.